Well, hello there, humans, hippies, earthlings, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and hope you're lucky enough indeed to be doing it too. I'm Bushcron Blitz, and today I want to talk to you about gun depression. And I really want to address gun depression is the heart and soul, I think, of so many vehicles. And it's one of the most underrated stats in the game. And I'm going to break down why that is, and I'm going to show you why that is. I've had a lot of people who I consider to be nice people and all that, but very, very ill-informed, tell me that Blitz has been flattened out and gun depression isn't as important as it used to be, and all this kind of rubbish. Even good mates of mine who started the game off years and years ago and left when they said the maps got flat and all this is crap. Like, the maps didn't get flat. This is old Blitz. Blitz used to have huge mountains like this all over the place on all these different kinds of maps. Gun depression was less important then than it is now. Have a look at where you are here on this map. How important do you think gun depression is right now? You can shoot anywhere on the map. It doesn't matter if you've got 5 degrees or 10 degrees of gun depression. And that's why I want to point out gun depression is more than just the ability to shoot over the top of a big hill. The map designers in Blitz design the maps to give different tanks advantages in different areas. See that truck there? If I want to shoot that truck with the RU-251 and I'm at the front, well, I'm poop out of luck because I've got 6 degrees of gun depression and I just can't get the gun down. It doesn't matter if I've got 10,000 DPM right now because none of it is being put into use. But a little known fact about the RU-251 is if you turn it side on, you go from 6 degrees of gun depression to 10 degrees of gun depression. And watch the difference it makes to this little tank's ability to get the shot off. Can't shoot, can't shoot, can't shoot. Turn side on, 10 degrees of gun depression, can shoot, can shoot, can shoot. That right there is something that people seem to completely forget about with gun depression. Gun depression is not just the ability to have big fights from the top of ridges. Gun depression is the ability to get damage into other tanks. It's to put DPM to bear. It's the ability to actually shoot over these small berms, the small mounds, without exposing your tank and getting completely belted. To highlight this, I decided to drive 3 games in this little number here. Now, this is the Tier 7 British Medium, the Comet. It is an unimposing tank to look at stature-wise, but it's one of the rare things that pop up in the game, an anomaly. Every once in a while, you get a tank that has really, really good DPM, damage per minute, and really, really good gun depression. And the Comet is king of both those stats. It has 2,849 raw DPM. It has 12 degrees of gun depression, which is a massive number, far above the top tier, top echelon 10 degrees you kind of get. And what that means is you are able to constantly put your DPM to bear with tanks. It means that even if you can not have the best armor and you don't have the fastest mobility, you have the best mobility, all these kind of things, it doesn't matter. Your DPM is constantly going through your gun. If you've got 5 degrees of gun depression and 3,000 DPM at tier 7, then you've got to set up your tank in a completely different manner to get your shots off. These maps are not incredibly mountainous, yet you will see so often that I am clawing shots out of my Comet with gun depression. I also want to highlight that I don't just show the good matches. I'm going to show you me absolutely screwing this match and losing it. Like I was on for a big game in this match. There was probably a 4,500, 5,000 damage game on the table if I really got it right, and I absolutely didn't get it right. I ignore the T-32, by the way, because he's AFK and he's unimportant, and I pumped through the top part of the map. Now, a standard tank that's got a lot of DPM, say a T-54, for instance, or even, for heaven's sakes, an SU-100M1. These are tanks that need flat surfaces to get their DPM out, or they need to be driven in a manner where they accentuate their armor profile by angling up off the ends of very, very specific areas. That doesn't occur with tanks like the Comet, or the Leopard 1, or the FV4202, or the, anything with 10 degrees and above gun depression. They really do get a huge advantage. There are there are a lot more situations where they can absolutely put their DPM into the game. Lack of gun depression is a massive Achilles heel for a tank. It's a huge part of why a lot of tanks just can't get the damage out. And I'm highlighting this with this tank. I'm showing you the absolute ease with which the Comet can put a bit of damage out. The other thing that we really need to talk more about is map design. People take this for granted, but the maps are incredibly nuanced. The maps that you have in Blitz take a long time to design because the map designers try to put in different areas for different tanks. This is the horror. Watch this. I bet everyone who's been driving for a while has done this, gotten stuck on a corner, and then the tank flattens out against the wall, and they just can't get the tank to turn anymore, and you just get jammed and you die, and it makes you want to bite through your iPad. But they're mistakes that I know about, and I've made before, and I should make them again, and this bounce is pretty clutch. Like, thanks very much. We still managed to pull out nearly 3,000 damage there, and a lot of it was from that farming session right at the start, and they're massive guy for the M213. Anyway, this is another map. There's a small bump. There is a tiny little bump at the top of this map. I'm going to take the tank with probably the most DPM in the game right now, the Comet, and the most gun depression in the game right now, in this specific game, and turn it into a big game for the Comet. And I'm going to do that because of gun depression. If I was in a LTTB, for instance, using the Top Gun, I'd have, I think it's 6 degrees of gun depression, and I wouldn't have been able to get these shots off. In the Comet, it's a no-brainer. Every shot that I see just about is available. Every time I have the opportunity to put my DPM in, it's available, and it's available because of gun depression. So the next time you're looking at tanks and you're wondering why the M103 can actually survive and get shots off in Tier 10, it's because it has 8 degrees of gun depression. And that gun depression gives it the opportunity to get a lot more shots off than would otherwise be the case. Now, I'm not saying that gun depression is the best stat in the game, because that's clearly tank dependent, map dependent, opposition dependent. It's just a stat that people don't really utilize all the time. Gun depression allows you to be less visible. You don't have to expose yourself as much to get the shots off. You'll see a T25 and 2 push up around this corner. Watch him try to get the shot off. Now he keeps pushing forward. He wants that shot. It's hard for him to get the gun down without coming out sideways. He just doesn't have the ability to do that. I am hidden behind a rock. I really am not in any danger of taking large damage, and yet I am pouring damage out into the red team. It's been going for a minute and a half and I'm on 1,500 damage in a Tier 7 game. I overexposed myself there. That's my fault. I didn't need to do that, and I don't do it again. I don't waste my time. Again, look at the damage just pumping out. This guy can't get the gun down far enough to shoot me. It's non-stop. It's absolutely non-stop. It's a breeze because all the shots I can get, I'm getting. And this is where the key to some of these tanks is. If you're driving a Tiger 1, you've got 8 degrees of gun depression. Put it into a slot where you can use 8 degrees of gun depression and reap the rewards. If you're driving a WZ 121 and you've got 5 or 6 degrees of gun depression, you've got to drive that very differently to a M48A1 Patton or a Leopard 1. You still have to drive tanks to their strengths, but the ability to pull the gun down a couple of extra degrees is enormous. It's one of the reasons people still prefer the Object 140 at times over the T62A. It gets an extra 1 degree of gun depression. And let me put that in perspective. 5 degrees versus 6 degrees. 1 degree. Doesn't sound like much. But when you've got 5 degrees, 6 degrees is an extra 20%. That means you get an extra 20% more gun dip when you're trying to fire over that tiny berm. And if that results in an extra shot or 2 every game, and you're in a tank with the same raw DPM, then that really counts for something. It's one of the reasons why people get so frustrated driving up the second Russian TD line with the Su-100s. They have horrific gun depression stats and they're rear-mounted turrets, which means you can't hide them on the back of ridges and get easy shots and farm easy damage. You've really got to play those tanks either as super backwards campers or very, very agile tanks with mediums. I'll show you this one last game. Again, tier 7, happy days, love it, great fun. And I'm in the Comet. And it should be noted, I had some monster Comet games. I was planning on making this video last week, and I drove tier 7 with my mate Camiro in the Comet and the Type 62 Dragon. I had a couple of 4.5k games, one on, where was it? Winter Malinovka, where I abused gun depression on the medium flank on the big hills there, 12 degrees of gun depression, and basically just farmed an entire team as they came around the corner. How about this for bouncers? My Churchill gun carrier never bounces like this. Are you kidding me? But look where my tank is. My tank is still slightly downslope. It's not pushed all the way over the top of the hill. I'm still capable of pulling this tank back very, very quickly. And that is completely due to gun depression. We get spotted. It's just a short little jab backwards. Watch how easily we get the shot up. Now, we don't make that shot, but it's a critical hit. Look how easy it is to get shots when you've got gun depression. And you want throughput. Throughput is what we're talking about here. It's all well and good having massive amounts of DPM, but what is the point if you're on a map like this and to get the shots, you've got to roll up to the top of the hill and expose yourself? One of the things people don't understand about tanks that have big gun depression is if they are above you or slightly elevated on a ridge like this, they are harder to hit. When you're on the downslope of the ridge like that, you are so easy to hit. Now, it's no guarantee. Even with 12 degrees, there are still shots like this that you can't quite get out and that you have to work around and change again. But you don't get that if you're in a really low gun depression tank. That Churchill gun carrier is still alive. So next time you hear someone say the maps are flat, have a good hard think about what they're saying. All these angles, all these berms, all these slight indentations in the map, if you're not using them, people like me will. And that's how they basically farm tanks. I've seen so many videos that feature Canyon, the middle cap of Canyon. People getting up there in Centurion 1s and 7-1s and T49s and T110E5s and FV4202s and M48A1 patterns and all these tanks that have great gun depression and dominating the entire map, just simply dominating the entire map because it's a power position. It's a position where you can expose just tiny parts of your turret and still get shots in so easily, like I am in this Comet. It's a crazy thought process to me that people underrate this stat still. I love DPM, I love high ceiling, but for God's sake, effective DPM is far more important. Having a tank with a howitzer and massive damage per minute numbers doesn't mean you're going to do that damage per minute because you can't penetrate tanks with a HE shell. The same goes for tanks that have no gun depression. It's not easy to always put that into practice. And it's one of the reasons why the Chinese line was so hard and so difficult and probably so poorly executed by Wargaming at the start of the season. They really needed to adjust it. Non-gun depression tanks are very hard for new players to drive. It's a concept that becomes natural over time, but it's not a concept that is native to... I'm just telling that guy, don't push. Why are you pushing? You're a one-shot. Don't do it. But anyway, negative doesn't help. But it's something that once you breed it into your gameplay, you just adore it. It's so hard to get rid of. And it's one of the reasons why I still come back to tanks like the Comet and just love it. Just love it to bits. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed that. I hope that I wasn't too preachy, and I hope it came across the right way, because I really do think that it's an important thing to grasp, an important part of your game to get involved with. I'm Bushka. Look after yourselves, and as always, stay safe on the battlefield. Bye for now.